Men are scum, women are scam. Every video you watch, every blog you read, you always find men and women fighting. How did we get here? In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how men and women got to this point and what you can do to be free. Keep watching. Hi loves, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl once again. My name is Amy, just in case you're here for the first time. If you are not here for the first time, then it means that you are an OG. And I want to say a very big thank you to all the OGs in the house. Thank you so much for sticking around. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic. And I feel like this topic is controversial because a lot of people do not understand it. And I hope that in this video, I'm able to give a bit of clarity as it relates to this. Now, before I go deep into the topic, I want to give a backstory about how we got here, how this whole thing began in the first place. Now, once upon a time, women got married young. Now, if you were 15, 16, 17, you were shipped off to your husband's house. All that needed to be in place was your physical maturity. And what that simply meant was, did you have a pair of breasts that's made up of two breasts? Did you have a vagina? As long as you had both, say no more, you were ripe and ready for marriage. You didn't need money, you didn't need houses, you didn't need physical strength, even up to sense. You didn't need sense. Because I mean, at 15, 16, what did you know? Think about it. At 15, 16, what did you know? You didn't need those things. All you needed were your raw materials, your pair of breast and your VJJ. Because back then it was assumed that when you were going into a man's house, when you were becoming a man's wife, your major role was to become a homemaker, to create a conducive environment for your husband and your children once you start having them. So with your two raw materials, you could, with the pair of breasts, you can feed your babies. And sometimes even your husband too. Then for the husband, you can, with the VJJ, when he's back from work, you can make him happy. So that was the idea. As long as you had those two raw materials, you were good to go. You didn't need every other thing, excess luggage. So from the beginning, as a woman, you already knew your role, even before going into your husband's house. You were going with the idea of, I'm going in for service, I'm going to work, I'm going to serve my husband and my children, and I'm going to wash, clean, cook, sleep with my husband whenever he wants it. Now, if you were a man back then and you said you were ready for marriage, you wanted to settle down, you wanted to start having you wanted to have your own family, have your kids and stuff, and then you decided to go to seek a woman's hand in marriage. Maybe you go with your family members and then you say, oh, we found a very beautiful flower in this compound and we've come to pluck of this flower. Back then, the expectation was, if you are coming to pluck of this flower in this compound, when you take this flower to your own compound, it should blossom just the same way it has been blossoming before you came, or blossom even more than you met it. In plain English, it meant that if you were taking a woman from her husband's house into your own house, you were ready to take good care of her just the same way her father did, or even better. That was what it meant. You will give her free food, you will give her free shelter, free clothing, you give her free everything just the same way she was getting it free in her father's house. That's the same way you provide this environment, enabling environment, conducive environment for her to flourish and blossom. That was the idea. So back then you had women get married, like I've said, very early, and they got married to older men. Not old men now, I mean older men that were a bit older or even way older than them. And this was because at that point it was assumed that an older guy would be able to take better care of her, because the difference in age or the difference in time has allowed him to work for a longer time. He would have, gathered enough resources to care for himself, his wife and the children. So that was why the arrangement was like that. But just the same way as the woman comes into marriage selfless, she comes into marriage thinking about the other parties that she's coming to serve. That's the same way the men too went into marriage thinking about the people they were coming to serve. So as a man, you were coming to serve your wife, you were coming to serve your children, so you were coming to provide an enabling environment for them to live. So food, clothing, shelter, everything, we were ready to provide for these people. In an ideal situation, this setting that brings a selfless man and a selfless woman together in a relationship and in a marriage would usually produce a very healthy balance, a very healthy husband and a very healthy wife. And of course, some homes were like this. There were some very healthy homes where the husband and the wife weren't cajoled to do what they had to do. They knew what they had to do, they knew their roles, and they were ready to meet the needs of their partners, meet the needs of their family. They were not forced, they were not cajoled, they were not begged to do what they had to do. They just knew what they had to do and they did it. In homes like that, in marriages like that, you had the husband come into the house, you had the husband come home from work, from the farm, because then, like I said, the major source of livelihood was agriculture. You had the man come home from the farm in the evening, and then he sees his wife, the house is well kept, she has prepared food, the food tastes nice, and he goes, oh, this food tastes so good, I really appreciate you for taking your time to prepare something really nice. He sees the children well kept, he appreciates her for keeping them, for caring for them, and then for making sure that they were not unkempt, such that when he brought in a visitor, he was ashamed, or she wasn't well kept, she wasn't unkept when he came back. The man is happy and is appreciating the wife. Any woman who's told this by her husband will be a happy woman. Any woman who is told this kind of things, who is appreciated like this, should be a happy woman. And a happy woman translates into a happy wife, translates into a happy mother, and as a result of that, the home is happy. Everybody in the home is happy. It results to, or it produces a happy home. So you see, everybody in the house is happy because mommy is happy. And this is so because women are emotional beings. Once you say something to a woman that makes her feel good, there is a likely possibility that she's going to repeat that thing just so that she can get that feeling again from you. Such a woman is very easy to sleep with. A man who says a thing to a woman, I'm talking about in a family setting now, in a family setting, a married man and a woman, it's easy at that point to sleep with such a woman because she's happy. She's happy with the man, she's happy with her husband. So she doesn't feel unappreciated, she doesn't feel like she's being exploited or anything. So at that point, she can give freely. Now this dynamics, this whole picture that I painted, that was happening back then, produces what I call the healthy feminine woman, produces the healthy feminine woman, and then vice versa, because also when the man comes into the house, comes back from work, and the woman goes to him and she's like, oh, thank you so much for being a provider. I can see how hard you're working and ensuring that the children have food to eat, I have food to eat, we are well taken care of. And then she's appreciating the man and telling him how wonderful he has been. Such a man will be very happy because men think in terms of their work. So if you praise him, if you talk about how good he is at work, how hardworking he is, you just did something to him, you just did something to his ego, you just did something to his self-esteem. It's every man's dream, it's every man's desire, let me put it that way, to be able to care for his family. So if a man is not doing well at work, he's not in a happy mood, he's usually not happy. But if he's able to, if he does well at work and that translates to him being able to provide for his family, him being able to take care of his wife, his children, he's a happy man. And that happiness even multiplies when the wife is appreciative of the effort he's making. So when she's saying, oh, thank you so much for being a good father, thank you so much for being a good husband, thank you so much for being able to provide, for being a provider, for caring for the family, the man is also very happy. And there is that, yin yang, give take kind of thing going on, because the man too is happy, and because he's happy, he wants to do more, he wants to work more, he wants to pour into her more, he wants to give her more, he wants to treat her more nicely, he wants to do everything that will make him get that same compliment that initially got, and the cycle just continues. You give him, he gives you. You give him, he gives you. You give him, you give him. It just continues like that. So that's how it goes. And this kind of a relationship, this kind of a setting, this kind of a dynamic produces what I call the healthy masculine man. So this setting in general produces the healthy feminine woman and the healthy masculine man, that produces children that you can say these children are healthy children. Yeah, produces healthy children. So when they have female children, the children, because they've seen, this is what they've seen, it becomes, they also adopt it subconsciously. It also becomes their own way of life. So you see the boy child in the house taking after his father. He has this work ethic. He knows that he's, as a man, he's a provider, he's supposed to take care of his family. He already, from a child, he's already learning that from his dad. And the woman, the female child, is already learning from her mom how to also be a good wife, how to be a good partner, how to also point to your husband, how to love him, how to respect him, how to, also receive from a husband, how to receive, how to put yourself in a position of reception. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about this in subsequent videos as we go, about a feminine woman being able to receive, a masculine man being able to give. I don't want to bore with so much of that information. I'll create a separate video and talk about that. There was another category of family that came out of the old family setting. Now I choose to call this category the unhealthy family. In the unhealthy family category, they also had two types. The first type I call the dysfunctional family. Now the dysfunctional family was made up of the dysfunctional husband, the dysfunctional wife, and the dysfunctional children. Now for the dysfunctional husband, he had spent his resources acquiring a wife. I have spent so much money on bride price. He has paid and paid and paid. Now he's expected to take care of this wife and also the children with the resources that he's working so hard for. So he's going to the farm every day. He comes back home. This woman doesn't do anything. All she does is sit down, eat his food, and get fat. But he forgets that when he goes to work, when he goes to the farm, she's at home caring for the children, feeding them, and what have you. But he comes back from work and then he tells her, lie down, and then he sleeps with her. He doesn't care about whether she's happy after the intercourse. He doesn't care. He just doesn't care. All that he's concerned about is if he's satisfied, he's okay. He's not in touch with our emotions. He doesn't care. He just feels like she's a piece of property that was just acquired. He goes off to get concubines, marry more wives, so that he can have more children that would help him in the farm, because after all, his role was just to provide. He might as well just get married to more wives so that they can have more children for him, so that he could have more money, because the more children you had, it meant that you had more hands at the farm. So you were a wealthy person, because once you had a lot of people working for you, it meant that you could produce more in the farm that you could ultimately sell or trade for something else. So you had more resources to marry more wives, and had more children to marry more wives, and had more children to work in the farm, provide more resources to marry more wives, have more children, and the cycle just continues. A woman who is married to a dysfunctional man at that point starts to think about ways to salvage the situation. She begins to say, okay, maybe if I have more children, he will be happy and he will spend more time with me. Then she gets pregnant, has more children, and still the man doesn't give her time. He doesn't care. She says, okay, maybe if I present myself in a more appealing way, he will like me more and he will pay more attention to me. She does it. Still, the man doesn't care. Okay, maybe if I sleep with him more often, he will decide to treat me well. He will be happy and decide to treat me well. She does that. Still, it doesn't change. She keeps doing everything within her power, and still the man doesn't change because he's a dysfunctional man, and nothing she would ever do would change that situation. And now she begins to see men in a new light. She begins to see men a different kind of way, because over time she had learned to cope with the situation, because no matter what she does, the man just doesn't change. It doesn't come around his same way. That lack of love, lack of care, lack of nurture had trained her to cope. She had now gotten to a point where she was just coping. She was just coping with the situation. So at that point, she began, her brain began to train her and teach her to see men in a new light. She began to see men in a different type of way. She began to see men as, oh, men don't change. All men must have multiple sexual partners. All men cheat. All men are this. All men are that. Men are scum. All men, are dogs. All men, that I'm sure we've heard girls and women say things like this: men must cheat, men must be men, they must cheat. So they were in such marriages where they were not happy. I'm not an advocate of divorce, by the way, but they were in such marriages, they were not happy. They were very unhappy in their marriages, but yet they were in it. And then they began to advise the younger generation, that's their children now. They began to talk to them about marriage. They began to say things like, oh, marriage is a gift, it's a wrap, you never know what's inside until you get in. But whatever you see, take it like that, because that's how it is, that's how marriage is. All men cheat, men must have multiple sexual partners. Accept it, that's how it is, that's how all men are. Don't walk out of a relationship even if your husband, even if the person you're in a relationship with is cheating. That's how it is. But as long as you are the main chick, as long as, we've heard this kind of sayings before, as long as you are the main chick, as long as you are the one with the title of a wife, you are good. Just accept it, because men must cheat. This is the category or family that produced those kind of people, because the man in that house has subconsciously taught his boys how to treat a woman, how to he had instilled the understanding that men should have multiple sexual partners, even if he wasn't doing it consciously. But the children were picking up on that. Now, those are the kind of men in the world that they say men must cheat. As a man, I should cheat. That was the dynamics that produced them. Now, on the woman's hand, the female children, they began to learn from her how to act in a dysfunctional setting, that no matter what you are going through, all men must cheat, so you must accept it, accept his misbehavior, accept even in a relationship, and you get married to him, he's cheating, it's not a problem, because that's how men are, that's how all men are. So the husband and the wife had subconsciously taught their children how to behave without them even knowing. So you see that dynamics bringing about a generation of people that are recycling what the older generation did. The dysfunctional man and woman had produced a dysfunctional children, that produced dysfunctional male children, dysfunctional female children. There was a second category that the unhealthy family produced. It produced what I call the angry husband and the angry wife. He works day and night, he toils morning till night, he works, and so he feels like he's just the one putting all the effort. The woman doesn't do anything. He's left with all the burden of the family, and so he comes back from the farm and he's not happy, and because he's not happy, he's not able to make his wife happy as well. He doesn't treat her nicely, he doesn't treat her with care and love, and because of that, the woman is resentful, because when you don't show a woman love, if you don't meet her emotional needs, she's not happy. So an unhappy woman becomes an angry woman, and an angry woman produces an unhappy home. The children are unhappy, everybody is unhappy. Such a woman begins to resent her husband, and you just see her becoming very angry in the home, because she feels, oh, this man thinks that I'm good for nothing, all that I am is just a sexual object that he uses for his sexual pleasure, and after that, that's all. And before we continue, please give this video a thumbs up if you've been enjoying it. And then in history, it got to a time when civilization came to Africa, civilization. And then it got to a point where civilization came into Africa, came into Nigeria. I can speak for Nigeria because I'm a Nigerian and this is what I know. So civilization came into Nigeria, whites came and they decided that, oh, we're going to bring in schools for these African people. And then going by my initial point from the very beginning, that it was the role of men to provide and it was the role of women to, you know, be homemakers. Since that was the case, if you're thinking about it logically, it was the male children who were not allowed to go to school. Because if you think about it, if it's the male child that would become a husband, a provider, and school came so that employment can come, a man goes to school and is able to, he gains employment such that he's able to provide for his family, then there was no point for a woman to, you know, also go to school. Because if she's going to school, it means that she's going to get a job, and if she gets a job, it meant that she would be paid, and if she was paid, she would be able to care for a family. But she doesn't have a family that she cares for. Rather, she has a husband who is the provider that cares for her. So back then it was believed that, come on, a woman, there was no point, and it's for logical reasons, like we can see, there was no point. It wasn't important. School wasn't important. School wasn't necessary. It wasn't, because for a woman, you are not the provider, so why should you go to school? That was the idea back then. So they didn't allow, women were not allowed to go to school. It was the male children that were allowed to go to school. And then again, some people began to rise up and say, why should women not go to school? A girl child has as much brain as the, you know, boy child. So why shouldn't both of them be allowed to go to school? They should both be allowed to go to school. School shouldn't be about who is providing or who is not providing. It should just be because they both have brains and they are both humans, so they should be able to go to school. They should have, you know, they should have equal opportunities. And then people began to fight. And then for the healthy dynamics that we initially spoke about, a healthy masculine man, once he got this information that, oh, there is a proposal or there is a new news going around that both males and females will be allowed to go to school, he was happy. He was like, oh yes, I enjoy being the provider, I want to be the provider, but it won't be a bad idea if I also get some support from the woman, if she's able to work, and then we can put resources together and be a power couple and stuff. Yes, I'm still going to take up most of the burden, but then it's nice to have. Yeah, so a healthy masculine man, that was his idea, that was his thought when he heard about the news. For the healthy feminine woman, she felt, oh, this is a good development. My husband works so hard, it would be nice if I'm able to, you know, assist a bit in the home, maybe get a few things, just support here and there. Yes, he's still the provider in the house, he's still the one that is going to be providing, bringing the major things, but it won't be bad if I'm able to, you know, put in one or two and just support the family. So the healthy feminine woman was happy about the development. She was happy that, oh, her children will be able to go to school, her female children will be able to go to schools, and when they got married, they'll be able to also support their husband in one way or the other. Now, for the unhealthy dynamics, for the unhealthy family, like we said, there were two categories. The first category, the dysfunctional family. For the dysfunctional man, once he got the information, he was angry. He felt, no, women shouldn't be allowed to go to school. Why should a woman be allowed to go to school? Because when she comes back from that school, the degree is wasted. It's of no use, because at the end of the day, she's still going to end up in a man's kitchen or in a man's bedroom. He felt like it was a bad development that westernization was bringing in. The dysfunctional woman, on the other hand, she felt, no, school, they shouldn't bring schools, because women, now if they bring in schools, it means that the woman will not be able to provide. She'll now also have money that she'll be able to buy things. No, she doesn't think that that's good enough, because she doesn't think her husband is going to like it. She feels her husband is not, she's going to feel like she's competing with him. She doesn't want to feel like she's competing with her husband, so she's not going to, even if she knows that she has the brain to study and come out with good grades and get a degree, she's not going to do that because she doesn't want her husband to feel intimidated. She doesn't want her husband to feel sad. She wants her husband to shine, and so she's going to put herself down. She's going to dim her light just so her husband can shine and stuff. So that was the dysfunctional woman. And then the second category of unhealthy family, which is the angry husband and angry wife. These two people, for the man, he felt no, never. A girl child should not go to school because if a woman goes to school, she'll become too proud, she'll be raising her shoulder. She's not going to want to clean the house anymore. She's not going to want to wash the clothes. She's not going to want to feed her children. She's going to be doing her hands like this. She's just going to be, useless in the house. He didn't sit down well with him at all. He was very angry. He felt, for what? Girls should not be allowed to go to school because the boy child is better than the girl child. So the better one should go to school. Why should a woman go to school? If she goes to school, she'll become disrespectful. She's going to disrespect her husband. She's not going to clean it anymore. Her role is in the kitchen. Her role is in the bedroom. So she should remain there. She shouldn't try to, take the place of a man. Why would she be trying to compete with a man? No, she should remain in the kitchen. She shouldn't go to school. The angry women, on the other hand, they were glad. This is what they've been looking forward to.
That was the day that I knew that I had arrived.
Now that it seemed like they had the opportunity to become free. Now that it seemed like they had the opportunity to do whatever they wanted to do, they were championing this move. Oh, women should go to school. Let them allow girls go to school. Now my female children can be independent. Now if a man misbehaves, they deal with him. If a man misbehaves to them, they walk out of the relationship, walk out of the marriage. They cannot take nonsense. Any man that does anyhow will say anyhow. If you ask my husband, if you talk to me anyhow, I talk to you anyhow. All of us, we are equal in this house. We are equal in this marriage. Talk one, I will talk two. Now I am independent. Now I also have power as much as you do, because now I can go to school, I can make money, and when I make money, I can feed myself, I can fend for myself, I can care for myself, just like you. I am now a provider too. I don't need you anymore. You are useless to me. I'm not needed. Now you can get out. At last, all the nonsense that her husband has been doing, all the rubbish that he has been doing, now she can have her own. She can get back at him. Now she's not going to be under any man. Now she can decide to do whatever she wanted to do. She can go to school and be an independent woman, have her own house, have her own car, be able to care for herself. That was how angry women saw it. They were happy and they were championing the move. Now the angry women produced the next generation of women, who I like to call the pseudo feminists. And pseudo feminists are a bunch of women that hate men. In plain English, they're a bunch of women that they don't like men. They hate men because she feels like feminism is about, the fight against men, fight against the oppressors, fight against every man you see on the street, because every man is out to get you as a woman. That's the vague idea that the pseudo feminist, the wannabe feminist, has about feminism. So when she's fighting, she doesn't even know what she's fighting for. A pseudo feminist, for example, the wannabe feminist, if she was carrying a very heavy bag, and even if not so heavy, but she's carrying something, and then a guy is around and he wants to just be a masculine man and help her out, carry some of what she's carrying and ease her burden, you see a pseudo feminist saying, why do you want to help me? Oh, you think that I'm weak? Oh, you think that I'm not good enough? And you see her just acting up when a man is just trying to help. She's angry. She always thinks that it's a fight between she and a man. A pseudo feminist has totally lost touch of her femininity. She has lost touch of how to be a woman, how to receive from a man, or how to receive generally from people. And this is the idea that a lot of people have of Chimamanda Adichie. A lot of people, Chimamanda Adichie is one of the frontliners of the whole feminism thing. When I first began to hear about feminism, it was back then I think when I was in secondary school, high school, like those in the West call it. And back then, I heard a lot of negative comments from people saying that Chimamanda was advising women to, not be submissive wives, that she was just teaching women to be in a fight with men. I don't think that's the case, because the Chimamanda that I've been studying a bit about, she talks about equality in the society. So if two people, a male and a female, work the same job, they should earn the same money because they're doing the same things. A male and a female should be allowed to go to school. Yeah, so all these things are the kind of things that Chimamanda, I've heard her talk about. Yeah. Now, where I feel like some people mess it up is where they begin to say that men and women are equal in the real sense. A man and a woman are not equal. There is no equality in the real sense. I'm not talking about in the work setting now, in the school setting, and in society. I'm talking about in the real sense. There is no equality because the basis of comparison is sameness. Basis of comparison is similarities. A man and a woman are not the same, so there is no basis for comparison. You cannot say that a man and a woman are equal, because we are not actually equal. It's like comparing a needle and a thread. You can't compare a needle and a thread simply because the both can be used for stitching or can be used for sewing. You can't compare the two because they are not the same. They have different purposes. The thread has its own strength and the needle has its own strength. But when they come together, the strength of one makes up for the weakness of the other. So all you just see then when they are working together is strength. You won't see any weakness because the strength of this one has covered up for this. The strength of this has covered up for the weakness of this, and everything just sort of flows like that. So when they work together in unity, when they work together in partnership, they are able to achieve a common goal. And then we say, oh, I'm done stitching. I've been able to stitch my clothes. Without a thread, a needle is useless. Without a needle, a thread is useless. So when men and women learn to work together, we'll just find out that the world will be a better place. Because there are things in men that are not in women, and there are also things in women that are not in man. For example, you have that the man is more logical. That doesn't mean the woman doesn't have a logical side. She has a logical side as well. It's just that logic is more prominent in a man, whereas emotion is more prominent in a woman. Doesn't mean that the man doesn't have his own emotional side. So I feel like men and women have to come to this point where they learn to work together, because that's the only way everybody can really be happy. Another thing I think a lot of people misunderstand is that there's equality in the home. There is no equality in the family setting. There is nothing like equality. As a woman, you can say if you have males at work, you are equal with those males. But once you come into your home, you come into your household, your husband, there's no equality between you and your husband. There is no such thing as equality. A husband and a wife are not equal. I know that a lot of people may not agree with me, but if we are talking about it based on the original design, which is because the first place marriage was ever mentioned was in scriptures, was mentioned in the Bible, that God is the head of the family, then the husband follows, so he's subject to God, and then the woman follows, and then the children. Yeah, so that is the hierarchy in the home. God, the husband, the wife. So if we are going by that, you cannot say a man and a woman are equal. A man and a woman are not equal in the home. A husband and a wife, let me put it that way, a husband and a wife are not equal. You can be equal outside, but once you are in the home, you have a husband and there is a wife, there is no equality there. Yes, both parties can honor each other, respect each other, but when it comes to who is the head, there is a hierarchy in the home. So you cannot talk about equality in the home. Chimamanda Adichie is very in touch with her femininity. Even as she's a feminist, she's very in touch with her femininity. But you see a lot of these pseudo-feminists, they are not in touch with their femininity. And this is just to tell you that a lot of people do not even understand what feminism is all about. Femininity is a very, fundamental part of a woman's life. It's very, very important, but a lot of people, like I've said, are not in touch with their femininity. So I would really want to break down for us what femininity is all about, just so we can, you know, better know how to position ourselves. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking a lot about femininity, how to become a more feminine woman, so that you can be able to receive from people, whether it be the opposite sex or people generally. Yeah, because a lot of people are they've lost touch of their feminine essence, they've lost touch of their femininity, and you see a lot of things going on in the world is because some of these women are no longer in touch with their feminine side. So that's what we're going to be talking about in our next video. If the video is already ready, it will be linked here. Now we've come to the end of this video, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching up to this extent. If you really watched up to this extent, and please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.